Hey everyone, off the top rope here. Doing a quick little run through of AEW Dynamite. I think it was in College Park, Georgia, but they're calling it Atlanta. Decent crowd, a lot of energy in the building. Listen, um, it was a fine show. It wasn't anything like outwardly terrible. Still, there's just a lot of things going on with AEW that just really have me questioning what their end game and what their goals are, what their, real, what their direction is in terms of creative decisions. And like, we got the Death Rider stuff out of the way early. It leads to Claudio and Moxley taking on Jay White and Adam Copeland in a Brisbane brawl. Creative little alliteration there in Grand Slam Australia, which they finally have actually, given us somewhat of a time. They said immediately coast to coast following NBA All Star Saturday Night. So thanks for doing that finally. So then we get Will Ospreay, which now has become the new Orange Cassidy. He's in the opening match of every single show now. Come up with something different format wise, AEW, because that's kind of why Orange Cassidy got kind of type casted as like the opening show. So he's supposed to face a member of the Don Callis family, and this is where AEW kind of lost me here tonight when they lose me a lot of these shows. It ends up being Mark Davis of Aussie Open. I'm like, wait a second. Wasn't Mark Davis fighting alongside Will Ospreay like a few months ago? And some people were trying to rationalize, oh, it makes sense. He was mad at him about Fletcher. I was like, well, you could have made this 10 times more impactful if it would have just been just a surprise reveal and he attacks him. Instead, you just reveal him as a member of the Don Callis family, have him go wrestle in the ring as part of a match, and then Will Ospreay just beats him. What did this accomplish? And it just leads to it was a 13-minute match. Will Ospreay is awesome, but it's just like, who cares? Who cares? So then Kenny Omega, they sort of build up for their whole match with Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher coming up at I was going to say pay-per-view, but it's at the event in Australia in 10 days time. We get a segment with the Hurt Syndicate. The Hurt Syndicate honestly should be baby faces. They're so over. And yeah, look, I love what Shelton Benjamin's, and like my big problem is it's like you got to stop pushing these guys who were not with you. But I love the fact that people are into the Hurt Syndicate. I love Lashley. I love Shelton. I love MVP. But these guys should be baby faces. Everybody's chanting "We hurt people" to their song. So they start teasing who they're going to face next. And the Guns come out. The Ass Boys are back. Colton and Austin. So that's nice of them with their banger theme, the Bang Bang Gang theme. And I guess they're gonna have a match next week. Tag team titles, Hurt Syndicate versus the Guns. So hey, it's fine. I mean, I think they're jumping to it a little bit too quickly because they don't really have any tag teams really to go after the Hurt Syndicate, but it's nice to see the Guns back. So, okay. Okay. Couple things here. The Australian women on this show, we'll start with Harley Cameron and then Tony Storm later on, were the highlights of this show by far. Harley Cameron, who initially I was like, I don't know what her deal is. She has week by week become one of the most entertaining people in this women's division. One of the most entertaining people on this show because she has been trying to advocate for, it's predictable. It's Australia. She wants to get a TBS title match against Mercedes Moné. But here's all you need to know. So she has this puppet that is imitating Mercedes, and it's really, really great. So then Mercedes comes out, does her whole shtick, really just sounds really completely inauthentic. And we all know what this is building to, but to have somebody who has been in wrestling as long as Mercedes still not be able to cut a functional promo and get clowned by somebody who's barely been in this business like Harley Cameron, that is a bad look. That is a really bad look. I've worked with people and I've talked with people around the wrestling business, and they always talk about maximizing your time and maximizing your minutes. And Harley Cameron has absolutely done that. And she had been kind of a background character in terms of, like she was with Soraya, and I think she did the stuff with QT Marshall when they were QTV, but she has shined in like this sort of like, crazy girl, like in really an entertaining gimmick. And now she's going up against like what's supposed to be the standard of the women's division, and she has outshined her on multiple occasions. And I know what this is all going to lead to. It's probably going to be a match in Australia for the TBS title that Mercedes is going to win. But I do like what's happened here, that Harley Cameron is getting an opportunity to really shine. This is what Mercedes should be doing. This is what she should be doing in terms of elevating talent. But the reality is she's kind of doing this to herself because, again, you just look at back and forth, and I challenge all you Mercedes marks to go watch back that promo and dare to tell me who was the better looking star in that segment, the champion or the future challenger. And I would all day, Harley Cameron just looked outstanding, and it was really, really entertaining. So then Takeshita and Fletcher face the Hounds of Hell. Buddy Matthews gets distracted, and Takeshita and Fletcher beat the Hounds of Hell. Buddy Matthews, I guess, is gonna have a match with Okada because Okada just needs somebody to defend the Continental title. And hey, Buddy Matthews is Australian. And, hey, Buddy Matthews has a famous girlfriend who's in the other place and is probably the most over person in all of wrestling. So, yeah, that was a little bit weird. Another thing. I've said this before, and I'll say this again. Moving out of this match, I love and adore Samoa Joe. That guy just oozes cool. And the thing that, the whole mentor-mentee thing that he's got with Hook has always been entertaining. They went away from it because Joe had to go film a television show that he does on Peacock. Forgot what it's called. But they have this back and forth thing where they just it's like big brother, little brother. It's really cool. It's honestly the best usage they've had of Hook. You put him with somebody who's a badass who just beats people up, don't really have to say much. So they go in and they beat up Christian's kids, Kip Sabian and Nick Wayne. Christian is shown trying to peek in, and he runs away and acts like he didn't do anything. The whole thing is a little bit weird, but I think it's just giving Christian something to do until inevitably he uses that world title shot that he's got that he's been holding on to. But Joe and Hook together is really fun. I enjoyed that. MJF, I mean, we had something with Hangman Adam Page getting into it with Max Caster, and Max Caster's running away from it. So this overlaps in MJF segment where he's kind of taunting Jeff Jarrett. So MJF gets interrupted by Hangman. It seems like we might be heading towards something with Hangman and MJF. But my question is, why are we not having better utilization of Hangman Adam Page? Like, why does it have to be Adam Copeland, who I like and I think is a legend? Why is Adam Copeland getting teased to have a world title shot? Why isn't Hangman Adam Page? Why isn't Kenny Omega? Why isn't Will Ospreay in this position? And Hangman is as good as there is, and yet we've got backstage segments that really lead to almost nothing, and we're just kicking the can down the road. But then this thing got really weird. So Hangman and MJF, they go face to face. Hangman chases Max Caster to the back, and then out comes Dustin Rhodes, who cut a pretty decent promo and did everything he could to make the crowd care. But what are we doing? MJF and Dustin Rhodes? What are we doing? Dustin said in his promo, he's 55 years old. He's been great, but MJF is your ace. You got MJF going after guys in their 50s. What the hell is this? That's not what AEW is. It's about elevating stars. It's like, and MJF doesn't need to be elevated anymore. He doesn't need to be furthered along. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Also, Dustin Rhodes is out carrying his Ring of Honor championship because I completely forgot that he's been a Ring of Honor champion. You want to take a wild guess at who his tag team partner is? Sammy Guevara. You want to know why I know that? I just looked it up. I didn't know. I almost forgot that they're the Ring of Honor champions. But yeah, Dustin tried his best, but I mean, I don't know what they're doing here, man. Like they don't want to send MJF to the world title because Moxley's got it. So but they're delaying and kicking this can down the road with MJF, with all these guys who deserve way better. And this is the product of you investing way too much in this storyline that nobody cares about, way too much in older guys that like Adam Copeland. He doesn't need to be a world champion. He doesn't need to be in a world title match. It's just this is where AEW kind of loses me. Queen Aminata versus Tony Storm. I'm not really going to talk about the match. Tony Storm wins the match. Story of this match is Tony Storm, because Tony Storm is fucking incredible. She comes out and is timeless Tony Storm, playing the role of Mariah May while Mariah May is seething on commentary. This was outstanding character work. And you want to talk about, let's go side by side with two of what are supposed to be the standard bearers of this women's division. So Tony Storm was the champion. She dropped it to Mariah May, but Tony Storm was carrying this women's division for a long time as timeless Tony Storm. She left WWE for creative differences. She didn't get along. Mercedes Moné left WWE for creative differences. Look at them now. I'm assuming both of them have some level of creative control. Look at what Tony Storm is doing versus Mercedes Moné. Tony is some of the best character work, not just in the women's division, in all of professional wrestling. And that stretches across multiple companies. Timeless Tony Storm is truly one of the great characters. And to see her do this, literally dressing up like Mariah May with the hair extensions and everything, it was, I got a really good chuckle out of this. This was so entertaining. And this is the type of character work and things that you need to, push more and get your fans behind. And this is why people have gravitated and loved what Tony Storm has done. Mercedes has been kind of like, she was kind of put in the position right off the bat. Tony Storm had to earn her keep to get there. Remember, she was an interim women's champion for a long time because Thunder Rosa dropped the title and they gave it to her. Tony Storm had to earn her keep. She was less over than Jamie Hayter. She was the outcast Tony Storm. And then she makes this timeless gimmick, runs it for a year, helps put over a younger talent. That being said, this Mariah May reign has not been good, but she put over Mariah May, and then she comes back in her old gimmick. She acts as, she acts as like, the old rocker Tony Storm, reveals she's been acting, and now she's taunting her opponent by acting like her opponent. Like, this is great stuff. Great stuff. Like I said, the Australian women in this company are honestly some of the best shit that's going on. Like, the Australian women across really all of wrestling have really been great. I miss Indy Hartwell. But yeah, you've obviously got Rhea Ripley in WWE, so, and then obviously you got Tony Storm, and Harley Cameron really making their keep in AEW. And then the main event, we had the Learning Tree stuff, which was weird. I mean, I was joking. I was like, damn, we have to deal with another Chris Jericho segment. But hey, Hobbs and Big Bill are feuding with each other, which I guess is somewhat cool. Big meaty men slapping meat, so that's cool. Then we get Swerve Strickland and Ricochet to end the show. Ricochet wins. This is what needed to happen. I mean, it went like there was a lot of finishers that were too much for my taste. I think at some point they've got to start, emphasizing like, match finishes and like, protecting moves. Like kicking out of the swerve stomp is weird, but Ricochet wins by nefarious means, an inadvertent low blow, which is kind of fitting of his character. And, he beats Swerve, which is great. Hey, good for, I'll say this. When Ricochet doesn't have a microphone in front of him, he's really, really good. And I love what he has done to kind of morph himself into this heel character. It's just, at some point we've got to stop beating Swerve Strickland. He's taken way too many L's in the last handful of months. Like he lost to Lashley. He lost to Ricochet. He lost the world title to Bryan Danielson. He lost to Hangman Adam Page. Swerve's taken way too many L's. But I get why this was done. It was supposed to get Ricochet over as a heel. It wasn't clean, so I'm fine. That being said, there are still problems with this show. Mainly some of the bigger storylines at the top of the card. But yeah, the women's division really had some good stuff tonight. But yeah, I mean, the Omega Osprey stuff is weird. They're just all buddy buddy and best friends all of a sudden after hating each other for a year. The whole Mark Davis part of this thing just did nothing. And then obviously the Death Rider stuff, I've already made my case about that. So in a lot of ways, I say wrestling shows you're only as good as your biggest angles. And my biggest problem is there is no they're trying some other things out. And this Ricochet character has kind of done some things. Obviously, Tony Storm has kind of helped this women's division a lot since she came back, but there's still something missing about this show. They're talking about restoring the feeling, and yeah, it's great when you put on bangers, but if they don't lead you anywhere, then uh and you're not utilizing the right talent. Like I said, Hangman does not belong in backstage segments and chasing around Max Caster. That should never happen. Like that shouldn't happen. MJF should not be having a promo off with Dustin Rhodes. And I love Dustin Rhodes. He's a legend. But that shouldn't happen. Like there's still a lot of issues with this company. So it was a fine show. Fine main event, much better than what they did last week when they went off the air with that stinker of a Mercedes match, but still some problems. So anyway, that's off the top rope. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.